You ever feel like you're behind financially? How do you catch up?
Brian, I am so excited about talking about this because so many people out there feel that way. And a lot of folks out there have questions. They say, I want to know X about my personal finances, or I want to know how I can do money better. Well, that is exactly what we are here for. So right now, we have the team out in the wings collecting your questions. So make sure you get them in the chat so we can load you up. And with that, Producer Reby, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yep, I've got a question from John to kick us off and talk about that very thing Brian mentioned. He said, I found you guys recently and I'm realizing that I need to make some changes. I'm 37 and I feel so behind, especially after listening to last Friday's episode, How Real People Become Millionaires. Can I catch up? Is there anything specific I should be doing to help get myself back on track?
Well, quick true or false, Brian. True or false, 37 is old.
Oh, good. Thank goodness you asked me. I think it's young.
That's young,
Holy cow.
right? That's not old. So even, I think it's great, John. You're saying, hey, I'm at 37 and I feel like I've been behind, but I want to catch up. Is it too late? Unequivocally, the answer is no, it is not too late. Maybe you didn't make the decisions in your 20s or maybe the decisions in your early 30s that you would have liked to have made, but it's not too late because there is still some meaningful stuff that you can do. And I think sort of high level, like zoom out, big picture, here are two things that I think would be really, really helpful for you to figure out right now. Step one, assess where I am today. And now you say you're behind, you should actually figure out what does that mean. So I would encourage you, if you've never done a net worth statement, do a net worth statement. Start right now today. If you want to use our template, you can go to learn.moneyguy.com to see what your starting point is. Well, then once you've determined your starting point, I would also encourage you, figure out what that goal is that I'm working towards. If you work through our Know Your Number course, which is also available at learn.moneyguy.com, you can kind of set the finish line, set the parameter for this is the thing that I'm working towards. Only after you know, okay, where am I going and where am I starting, can you then begin to assess, am I behind, or how far behind am I, or what do I need to do to not be behind anymore? But the great news is you still have tons of opportunity, tons of time on your side.
Well, I hate if this was asked from the tone of I'm 37, I feel so behind, and then you ask us and we say, no, you're still super young. Don't take just our word for it. We actually have an illustration because we know the savings goal is 25% of your gross income. If the team will put that up on the screen, what you'll quickly notice, focus your eyes on the green. Now, of course, we'd all love to say we started in our 20s because if you are listening to this or watching this highlight and you're in your 20s, kudos to you. You have the world by its tail, literally. But even for your 30, if you're 30-something-year-old self or 35-year-old, which is very close to your 37, if you can save 25%, you can quickly see you're well beyond 80%. If you can save 30%, because maybe you are feeling behind and you use that as energy or momentum to kind of motivate you to actually save a little bit more, you can get beyond 100% of your actual current income. So you're far from being behind. And then I'd also encourage you, and Bo kind of hit on some of this, focus on, he gave you the tools, the net worth statement, also the Know Your Number course, but kind of use this exercise of having the net worth statement to know what you can control, because there really are two main levers of catching up. Is either you cut your expenses, that's going to help you in two ways. It's going to allow you to have more margin to save and invest, but it's also going to create a smaller footprint. So when you actually do need to live off these assets, you don't require as much because you've learned what enough is for you and your family. The second thing is this saving and investing. How do you get more money in? If you can't spend less, then maybe you have to work more or figure out how you have to create or work harder or work better or smarter so that you're creating more income so you can actually put additional money into savings and investments.
What I love is that age 37, it is still, your money is still powerful. Brian, do you have the how powerful thing?
Oh, yeah.
We have a great resource, the
multipliers.
Wealth Multiplier. If you go to moneyguy.com/resources, this will show for a 37-year-old, for you specifically, what can every dollar that I invest turn into?
$10.
$10. So every dollar that I can put to work for me can turn over 10 times by the time that I get to retirement. So it is still possible at age 37. Now, you might have to make larger decisions than you made at 27, but you can still make small changes that have the opportunity to have a big impact later on. But don't wait. Start today. Take it seriously today, and your future self will thank you.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. Procrastination is not your friend. Don't, just because you feel like you're behind, don't take the route of saying, well, I'll just wait and this is something I'll tackle after I get through this messy middle phase of life. No, this is not a situation that improves over time. It actually gets worse. So take today to be the moment of change.
Awesome. John, thank you so much for your question. If you would like a Money Guy tumbler,
Hey, Tumblr
it's your
Day.
lucky
Tumblr
day,
Day.
because it's Tumbler Day. And Brian likes to point out that this could be like a
turned
coffee
into a
hot
duck
beverage
today.
mug.
It was very ducky.
Or it can transform into a koozie if you would like it to be that. Just email Matt to cash in on that.
We don't need, oh, you have one. You're using it as a tumbler
I
today.
have one.
It's one of my mini beverages. It's keeping this beverage cold.
I'm still with the Millionaire Mission mug. If you want to go to moneyguy.com/millionaire mission, you can't buy one of these there, but you
I
can
was
at
like,
least
what are you
I didn't know where
saying?
he was going with
check
that.
out where the book
You can
is.
still pre-order the book and get lots of pre-order perks. That is true. But John, if you would like to email Matt to get your tumbler, that's matt@moneyguy.com. All right.
That was a book plug, guys.
That wasn't.
Not
No,
a
I
mug plug.
I love
this
the
was
book
the
plug.
reminder.
If you love this mug-
Reminder.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where it was going for a second, but we got there.
It is interesting. The people that knew about the perks are the people that were plugged in. So if you are not plugged in, if you're not subscribed to the channel, if you're not on the email list, if you haven't let us know you're interested, you won't know about these things as they happen. If there were some more perks that may come down the pipe. So make sure.
Because we do try to let you know.
We try to let you
but
know, but you got to be
can only
connected.
do so much.
I want to give Megan a big shout out. Our weekly newsletter that we send out on Saturday
Oh,
mornings,
it's gotten so
it's
good.
really good.
booming.
It's
So,
gotten so
guys,
good.
I know everybody hates signing up and giving email addresses and stuff for that, but if you will go sign up, I'm telling you, if you're not picking up some type of value, just unsubscribe. I give you permission if you're not getting value to unsubscribe. But I will tell you, myself, and I know what we talk about on this channel. I'm like, I can't wait to see this newsletter. Like this weekend, I kid you not, this weekend. It was, and I guess I was just right before I was like, did we not send the newsletter? Because I've gotten where I actually look forward to it on Saturday morning. That and Disney Food Blog. I kind of wait for those two big updates to come out every
Himself at Disney
Saturday.
Food
That's it. Those are the two.
I mean, just being honest.
I love it.
I do love it, actually. And yeah, we put a lot of thought and effort into those newsletters that we send out, because we are very thankful and we're honored that you would give us your emails. We try to make it worth your while. You can go sign up at moneyguy.com if you're not already. And yeah,
Well, there's
you can
always
get
a
those
tip of the
Saturday
week,
emails.
and then she even does some specialized Q&A shows with timestamps on them, and then it's always got some unique little flair on there that so Megan, loving it.
Singing your praises, Megan. Well
I
deserved.
think that was the closest I've ever seen Megan kind of blush.
I mean, they got there almost. I love it.
All right, are you ready for the next question?
Yes, ma'am.
I am.
All right, Keaton's question is up next. It says, my wife and I are 22 and we're following the FOO. We're
Nice.
both working full-time and on number 5. We opened our first Roth just last night and are feeling overwhelmed with all the choices. What do we do?
Oh man,
I mean,
Keaton,
this is
you
actually
have
very
shown.
exciting.
By the way, just because I have it right in front of me, for a 22-year-old, every dollar has the potential to become $66, close to $67. It's
amazing.
right there on the rounding
amazing.
point. So that is the fact that you guys have already made it to step 5 of the financial order of operations. This is the excitement. This is that tax-free growth opportunity. You are absolutely crushing it. And I also hear you. Coming from a family of not having money growing up, and my parents' idea of investing was CDs, I kind of felt like this whole wonderful world of finance was overly complicated. But let me tell you, there is a better way, and I'll let Bo kind of share. If you can figure out how much you can save and invest and when you'll need the money, there's something that can solve all your problems.
Yeah, and you ought to go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back, just even at this stage, because you've done a few things very, very right. One, you said I'm following the financial order of operations. If you're hearing that and you don't know what that is, go out to moneyguy.com/resource. You can actually download
they
the
gave me a
deliverable. It is a 9-step.
We're back to being able to wave the whole page.
It is I just noticed we took them out. It is a 9-step tried and true process that tells you exactly what to do with your next dollar. So you have a process that you're following. That's step one. Give yourself a pat on the back. Step two, you said you opened up a Roth IRA. So you did this last night. You've already narrowed down the types of decisions in the world of decisions you have to make because you had to choose where you opened that. Did you open it at Fidelity or Vanguard or Charles Schwab? So you've already kind of narrowed in that thing. Now you got to figure out, okay, how much am I going to save? We're going to advocate that I max it out. This year, if you're under 50 years old, you can put $7,000 into your Roth IRA, which is incredible. So that's how much to save. And now comes the big question. Okay, what do I invest in? Where do I put it? Well, Brian already alluded to this. If you can answer two questions, how much can I save? And when do I think I can need this money? You can solve the investment problem. You can answer the investment question by using what are known as target retirement index funds. These are funds that are set to allocate automatically based on a specific date. So let's say that you think you might want to retire in the year 2060. And let's say that you opened your Roth IRA at Fidelity. You could go look at the Fidelity Freedom 2060 Index Fund, and you can put all of your contributions in that fund. And right now, while we're a long way away from the year 2060, it's going to be very, very aggressive. Going to have a lot of stock exposure. But as we move through time and as you get closer and closer to that target date, it will naturally get more conservative for you. So this is a great tool for folks that are just starting out on their wealth building journey to use to begin building their army of dollar bills.
The only thing I'll close it out with, you notice he said index target retirement fund. That's different than the more expensive target retirement funds. We're actually like the index variety. And then the second thing I always hear criticism on is people say, man, they're just too conservative. I would encourage you, the three biggest providers are Vanguard Investments with their target retirement funds, Fidelity with their Fidelity Freedom Index funds, and then Charles Schwab has their own version of target retirement index funds. Go look at all three of the varieties if that's where you do your due diligence and research, and figure out which ones kind of have the right glide path. And what if you're hearing that term for the first time, glide path means they start off super aggressive and then they get more conservative as the years roll forward and you get closer to that age of when the money will mature or be available to you. Just look at those asset allocation changes and see what reflects your desires, your goals, and then good luck because you're crushing it. 22 being at step 5 of the financial order of operations. Don't forget, when you get to the level of success, complexity will come your way. And hopefully you will remember the abundance cycle.
Love it.
Fantastic. Keaton, if you would like a Money Guy tumbler, we would love to send you one. Just email Matt. It's just matt@moneyguy.com, and we'll work on getting that sent out to you. Thanks for your question. All right. Michael's question is up next. It says, my wife, who's 25, and I, who's 28, are nurses and going to graduate school. Our employer will be paying tuition. However, my wife, and maybe myself, can't work for the last year of classes. Is it okay to pause investing while saving so we do not go into debt? Or while saving. I think he means to say pause investing while saving.
Okay, so
Yes.
walk me through it again. So 25 and 28, they're both nurses, but they're in graduate school.
Yeah, and so that last year, it looks like with the course responsibilities, it's going to be hard to work full time.
It's going to be hard
for
to go
her
out
for sure, and for him
It's going to
potentially
be hard to go
as
out and
well.
generate income. So is it okay to not be saving?
To not be investing,
To not be investing. So they're still going to save. And I think that's a really interesting thing that I kind of messed up there that Reby corrected on me. Here's what I think really, really matters at all stages of life. Are you living below your means? Are you, if you're making X dollars, is the amount that you're spending, the amount that's going out the door, some number less than X dollars? That's the important part of wealth creation, one of the 3 ingredients that we call discipline. If you've got that down, I would argue that you're doing pretty good. Now, it is not uncommon through stages or seasons of life for things to get a little bit leaner, or maybe there's a requirement that we have to build up cash for some reason, or maybe we're just not quite as frothy in the income. I would say in this situation specifically, if you absolutely cannot save, if you cannot invest, and there's no opportunity for employer match, there's no free money out there, and you're still working on building that emergency reserve, I'm going to say, okay, you got to do what you got to do, but I would encourage you to really look at it hard. Are you certain I can't do $20 a month to a Roth, $50 a month to a Roth, maybe $100 as a couple? Are you sure that there's no way that you can be investing, because at 25 and 28, even just a small amount of money, it may not be as much as you were wanting to save. It may not be 25% of your gross income, but if you can just save a little bit, even through your leanest times, you're going to build up some muscle memory that when you do graduate, when you do get to the other side of your education, when you do start making money, you will have built that muscle memory that allows you to go into full-on wealth building mode.
My notes that I wrote, and I love what you just did because I'm going to amend mine a little bit. I wrote, yes, it's okay in this temporary season as long as you have a healthy level of fear, meaning that you know you're doing something wrong, or not wrong, but less than ideal, meaning that you're in this season of life where you're investing for your future by making sure your shovel of your career and your income potential is maximized and increased. So I love what you just said, though. You said, how about you still keep something going? I don't care if it's $20 a month or so, because what that's going to do is a whisper in your ear every month. Hey, you're not doing everything you're supposed to, but you're at least doing something. How about a nudge towards, are you at the point now where we can take this back up to full speed ahead? So I love that. Yes, with fear is my answer. It's okay that you have to pull back, but put a little reminder there, something that's going to be a teaser. So $20 a month, $50 a month, whatever you feel like you can do that doesn't jeopardize your financial household, do it. The second thing is, you have to ask yourself, and I already kind of know the answer, but I'm just going to give you the context so you can put yourself through this entire exercise. Will there be a benefit and a positive result from this sacrifice or this moment in time? Well, obviously, if you are making a sacrifice, so you and your spouse, y'all are both in nursing school, getting the graduate work, so you will have a bigger earning potential down the road, that's a solid yes. But there is a second part of this question, because I see people all the time, and I'm going to pick on your coworkers, the doctors, because they have the exact same problem. They go through medical school, then they go through their residency, and they're getting paid nothing during the residency, and then they get the floodgates of income open up after they kind of get out there. And what is the first thing they do? A lot of times you would think the ideal thing is go, man, what a blessing. I have all this money coming up. Now I have to think, what was the opportunity cost, or what was left behind while I was focusing on my investments? I mean, my education instead of investments. How do I go rectify that and bring it forward? That is what should be thought of. But a lot of times what is, man, I've been in school. It's time to reward myself. I've earned this. Let's go get that BMW. Let's go get the luxury vehicle. Let's go get the nicer apartment or house. Don't fall in that trap. I want you to think about in terms of, how do I catch back up? I turn this positive into a true positive versus just increasing my lifestyle drift to the point that you've now not only hurt your future self, you've actually increased what your expenses are necessary to even cover the basics. So don't fall into that trap. Will there be a positive benefit and a positive result? That only happens if you actually take that higher income and turn it into higher savings and investments in the future. Make sure you stay on the positive side of this.
Yeah, good stuff. Michael, hope that helps you out as you think through this. We're grateful that you're here and that you asked the question. So we'd love to say thank you and send you a Money Guy tumbler if you'd like. Just email Matt, that's MATT @moneyguy.com. Okay, Andrew's question is up next. He says, what are the pros and cons of a will versus a trust? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Okay, so we get this question all the time because I think a lot of people hear buzzwords when it comes to like estate planning or when it comes to estate documents or that sort of thing, and they get a little bit confused, right? So a will is a document that you have drawn up that says, at the end of my life, this is what I want to have happen with all of my things, and my things being people that I care about, or my things being stuff that I own, or businesses or real estate or that kind of thing. Your last will and testament basically says your wishes. A trust is actually a tool. It is a type of, I'm going to say account, but account doesn't do it justice. It's a type of entity. A
registration that can be, an entity.
Yeah, that can be part of your estate plan. So it is not, do I need a trust or do I need a will? What most often happens is someone says, I have a trust that is mentioned or defined in my will. So the will is the thing that says what's supposed to happen. The trust is an entity or a structure, an account that you use to carry out the wishes that you want inside that trust document. So most often, we don't see it as an either or. It's usually a both and they work in conjunction with one another.
Yeah, and what will happen is when you do a trust or beneficiary designations, those type of things now work outside of the will. They will kind of sit in front of the will. And a lot of people like that, especially if probate or the cost of death is expensive where you live. I know that's such a weird thing to say out loud, but it's true. Or you have somebody you're worried about being incapacitated. You know, if you have cognitive issues or you're worried about becoming disabled, a trust can be a great resource or a registration setup with the document behind it to tell people, hey, no, this person has access to work for my benefit or have access to my assets. So it works great ways, but then you'll still probably want to have a will, not only because a lot of times real estate or just the things that are sentimental in your life, you'll want to have something to speak on your behalf to kind of clean things up behind. So it's not an either or, even though you just kind of need to know what the boundaries, limitations of each of the documents are so you can know how to use them appropriately because they each have a place. I mean, I would say most estate documents that we're working with, people have both. They have the trust, they have their wills. It's definitely not an either or. It's more of making sure that there's a purpose and a plan for every dollar that you're managing and in control of.
Now, the question that you posed was, okay, pros and cons. Now, realistically, I'm going to say that if you have an updated will that accurately reflects your wishes, there is no con to having a will in place. There's no downside to having one. Now, if you have a will that you did 20 years ago when your kids were little and your financial circumstances have changed and the people in your life have changed and the family situation has changed, well, you could have a bad thing. The con could be a will you need to make sure is updated periodically as your life changes. But outside of it becoming stale, I don't think there's a downside.
Probate.
Well, okay, well, yeah.
Wills have probate, so whatever jurisdiction you live in, where you live matters on how estate documents are executed.
But you would still, even someone who's using trust to avoid probate would still need a will.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
They would still have a will, but you can say, okay, well, if I know that wills have this downside, can I get creative with the titling or structure of these assets that I think that I don't want to either have the expense of probate or I don't want to have the time wasted waiting to go through probate and get those letters of testamentary. Now we could think about a trust because maybe also you have to die with a will. Wills only become effective when you die, whereas a trust can be set up to where it's very effective even while you're living, but maybe incapacitated. So that's why I think that it's not an either or. It's back to they're both very effective, but they do completely different things. And this is why, look, we kind of walk people through, and this is probably a great way to kind of close out the question. When you're at the beginning of your journey, you just don't have a lot going on. That's why it's important to do that exercise of doing a net worth statement. Make sure your beneficiary designations on all of your retirement accounts is good. But then your life gets complicated. You get married, and then you have children. And by goodness, when you have children, you better have a will because the guardianship and what happens to your kids is so important. But then you keep progressing. And you realize, man, I'm not worried only about my kids and my assets. I'm worried about how do I have access or how do I make sure that I still have some type of control, but people can speak and manage. That's where the trust will kind of then slot in. This keeps getting more and more complex. You notice we're keeping talking about complexity. That is what success creates. And once again, like most things, I can give you as much free advice, but you're going to quickly realize, man, how do I get this into my personal life? I have all these unique things, and I'm completely different from my neighbor who's also successful down the street, but they're structured differently. Welcome to the wonderful world of financial planning and the abundance cycle. And this is what a good financial planner who works with an estate attorney is hopefully going to be able to navigate a lot of this stuff.
Good stuff, Andrew. Thank you for the question. We appreciate you being here. We'd love to send you a Money Guy tumbler as a thank you since it's Tumbler Day. Just email Matt to cash in on that. It's matt@moneyguy.com.
But this is why our job is fun. Because everybody is comes in with different fingerprints or different snowflakes. They're all unique. And it's that type of stuff. I was sitting there going through in my brain thinking about wills, trust, and for such a morbid topic, it is kind of fascinating to think of all the things that are going on there.
Love it. Agreed.
You are in the right profession. Love to see it.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle.
That's great. Okay, next question is from Steps.
Steps?
Steps.
Like literally foot in front of the other foot?
Steps.
Okay, steps.
Yes, sir. Ready for the question?
I'm ready.
I was close to giving that a sound effect, but we didn't. Keep
It
going.
says, when you're only starting to invest during the messy middle,
Okay.
are you supposed to pick the high yield, high risk portfolio in order to catch up? Or should it always start with conservative ones? And I would say, okay, he's in the messy middle and he's
This
trying
is
to
a
start.
hybrid
What should he
question.
do? Yeah.
Because there's two different things going on there. There is where in the financial order of operations are you? But then also, in addition to order of operations, how should you invest allocation-wise, with your investments? I think that's a twofer.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, if you're in the messy middle, I'd argue you're probably not behind yet. Now, there's a chance you're not where you could be, and maybe you're not as far along as you would like to be, but there's a really good chance you're not behind. And so I would encourage you at this stage, I would not major in the minors. I would not focus on the things that are not the most important things for you to focus on. Because you said, okay, well, do I start with an aggressive portfolio and then try to make up for lost time, or do I start with a conservative portfolio to kind of build a base? I would argue your allocation should not be the thing that's taking the majority of your concern. What I really want you focusing on is your savings rate and your behavior. How much money am I saving? How much am I building for the future? Because no matter if you have the most aggressive portfolio in the world that this year is going to make 15%, or you have the most conservative portfolio in the world that's only going to make 5%, if those are your two options, but you've only got $1,000 saved up, you just haven't moved the needle a ton. I want you focusing on how much you are saving and the decisions that you're making, and how can I save today and save consistently, and then how can I get better at saving through time? If you can do that, what will happen is your portfolio will begin to build and grow and build and grow till ultimately you reach the escape velocity, you reach the tipping point, you reach that critical mass point to now where, okay, at this point, I should start focusing on my allocation, not just my accumulation. But early on, accumulation is going to matter. So in the messy middle, I'm going to encourage you to focus on your savings behavior, how much am I putting to work, and also how do I keep my lifestyle tamped down as much as possible so that it doesn't run away from me. Because there are some things that happen in the messy middle that are unavoidable. We have kids and obligations and this kind of stuff. But there's a lot that happens in this season that we do get to control, that we can put our thumbs on to not let us take us down the path that we don't want to go on. And I think even though it's hard in this season, it is especially important in the messy middle to make sure you're focusing in those areas.
While you were kind of laying all that out, I was fine-tuning what Steps' question, because I think his question is like, and you hit a lot of it with the behavior, but savings, and when do savings become investments, and then how to do investments even better. And that's why I wanted to point Steps to the financial order of operations. Go to moneyguy.com/resources. This will at least tell you what to do with your next dollar to figure out, is that money that should go towards savings? That's really steps 1 and 4, versus paying down debt, versus, investing from your employer. And then when you get to step 5, really 2 and 5, because your employer, you're going to take advantage of that because it's dollar for dollar, 50 cents on the dollar, 50% or 100% guaranteed rate of return. That's pretty spectacular. You don't want to miss out on that. But when you get to these investment steps, because you will go from saving to now investing, you're starting to get overwhelmed, and you already have a lot of stress because you're in the messy middle. You got, no time. You got, money's being pulled in all directions too. So you're like, and now you guys are telling me this complexity of how to should I invest. Deep breath. It's going to be okay. We'll get you through this period where, yes, the days are long, but I promise the years are short. Just think about how much can you save and how much can you squeeze into those investments now that you're at that stage, and when will you need it? And if you can answer those two questions, you can then go consider and do research on indexed target retirement funds. 3 biggest providers: Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. And remember, When I say index target retirement funds, they don't have the high expenses of typical target retirement funds. If you'll go do research on every one of those big providers, you'll look at every one of their asset allocations, figure out which one has the risk profile that you're comfortable with, and then now you have solved that problem. You can focus on getting more time with your family, more money in the bank, because the investment is going to be a set it and forget it and always be buying type opportunity.
Love it.
Awesome. Okay. Steps. Thank you for the question. We'd love to send you a Money Guy tumbler. If you would like to cash in on that, just email Matt, M-A-T-T, @moneyguy.com.
I just saw a comment come in. Can I say this one?
Of course.
Someone just commented. They said, hey, the Money Guy Show should not be at 435,000 subscribers. They should be at 435 million subscribers.
Yeah.
And I agree with that assessment. But you know what? We cannot do that if you
don't subscribe.
Right now, you don't subscribe. So if you love this content, if you love what you're doing, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that we and the rest of the world knows that you're out there. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, no, I appreciate it. This is probably a good point to say it. Some of the things I struggle with is that I know we're doing good work and we're sharing the information. But you were talking about something that's been sliding into your, when you go on YouTube and other things, and you're like, man, it is like the worst of the worst, because they have like the dangerous stunts that they do. They have scantily clad people in it. You said they had wildlife in it. And then I was like, do they have weapons? Because that's the only other thing. If they have that, then it's an all of the above of every one of the emotional triggers or things that will draw people in. And is kind of, we're running a financial show.
You're saying we don't have that.
So we don't have that. we don't have that. So that's why it really
stunts.
does. And I'll make it even worse. We don't have a big corporation.
That's right.
Because if there was because think about how many brands and dealing with this whole book publicity, I've realized how fake the world of media. I probably shouldn't say that out loud because it gets me in trouble. But there is so much fakeness out there with the way the structures, and it's got this big push from a big corporate entity that's kind of driving and collaborations, and then there's all this input. It brings it full circle back to your point. We need you guys. If you feel like we really are making the world a better place, especially the wonderful world of finance, it kind of falls more on you guys. Share it with your friends and family, because our biggest goal is for the abundance cycle, and it's so noble in its cause. Because I started this in 2006. Think about this show started in 2006, not with the understanding this is a brilliant way to grow our financial plan firm. It was really written with the idea, or started with the idea, education should be available for all, because education changed my life. I come from humble beginnings, but I realized, hey, I was good with math. I saw things a little differently, and I was just so floored with how the opportunities of education, and I wanted to pay it forward. And it's you guys that made me realize, hey, no, doing this could actually grow the business. And now we've created this great coordinated thing where you benefit. But all I ask is once you get so successful that your life gets so complex from that success that you consider taking the relationship to the next level. Well, you see how this symbiotic, we have this relationship where it's full circle. I love it. You might even call it a cycle, like an abundance cycle. So please tell your friends and family, let us love on them, let us help them, and we can continue to change the world one viewer, one listener at a time. And y'all are a big part of that.
Love it. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I don't know what we do with that, because this is just part of a Q&A show, but it's kind of fun. I do think about this stuff all the time. I love what we get to do, and it's fun. And then, like, I was watching, and we won't go too far off the sidebar. There's these new channels, or maybe they're not new. Maybe it's new to me. These channels that expose scammers and all this other stuff, and they do whole exposés. It's kind of like investigative reporting of old. You used to watch 2020 at night and other things. Well, now there's a whole breed of content creators that go behind the scenes. And there's been a lot of content, like with FTX and all the scams that kind of came out of that. We've never gotten caught up in any of that stuff because, and we don't do a lot of advertising and other things, but it's all back to the point. It's you guys are the big driver of that. And I'm just so thankful that we get to kind of be pure at heart on what the purpose is. Even if there's, look, we get trolls. So I consider myself a troll whisperer, but I still am very thankful for all we get to do. I'll quit being sentimental. You get to be 50, you get sentimental. So I'll quit.
Jake said, "Strap in, everyone."
It didn't start till 50.
It started at 40. If you guys are approaching 40, and who was I talking to recently? I'm sorry, but I was talking to them recently, and they were in their 40s, and they're like, "Man, I'm just so sentimental." And I was like, "This is the journey."
What happens?
I mean, Bo is still, you're not at 40 yet, so you're still like warrior trying to bash and take over. You get to my age, and I just turn into the old teddy bear that's just so sentimental.
Well, great.
I want
All that to say.
No, I'm done.
Yeah,
Please
I just want to
start
make
the
sure
next question.
Want to make sure it was all out of
There's
your
a
system.
tornado coming our way, so we need to go to the next question.
Debatable if it is or not.
Unclear.
Unclear.
If it's gonna be
There is a
tornado.
lot. They're closing down schools here early today.
Actually, I just got the early dismissal notice. Just came through.
It's official.
Don't check. Don't check.
I should have given my phone to somebody to at least tell me if I get a text from my daughter's school, since I'm in charge of picking her up today.
Wow, that was 4 sidebars that we
Do
just
you
did.
realize how my brain
in
works?
A row.
You ought
in a
to
row.
think if you had to try to go to sleep with this brain.
More tangents than a geometry book. Isn't that what
it
they
is.
say?
Yep, that is what she said.
All right. I do have a question up next from Connie,
Connie!
if you'd like to answer it. She says, the husband and I are 36 and 37, and we want to fund both our 23 and 24, so 2023 and 2024, Roth IRAs by April 15th.
Oh, that's a good cause.
Our cash is in a high yield savings account earning 5.5%. Would you recommend holding it in a Roth IRA money market account to dollar cost average over time, or investing a lump sum now?
Okay. This is the question that I would ask for them, not knowing their specifics. I really wish I knew where your household income was, so that I knew if the way that you were contributing to the Roths was directly to the Roths, or if you were having to do backdoor Roths, right? So it's pretty easy. If you're trying to contribute for 2023, if you're trying to put in $6,500 for last year, you don't have a lot of time left to dollar cost average. You got 13 days or something like that to get your money put into the Roth IRAs for last year. So those are probably going to have to be lump sum. So 65, that's what, $13,000? You're probably going to do that lump sum. Now, the great news is for the 2024 Roths, you actually have until tax filing deadline next year to get those funded. So there's nothing wrong with setting up an automatic dollar cost averaging strategy where every month you just buy into a low cost index fund or a low cost target retirement index fund inside of your Roth and just set it and forget it, have it be on autopilot. That's a great solution, unless, and this is the only little caveat, it gets super annoying if you're doing backdoor Roths to do like 12 conversions throughout the year. So what I would argue is, if you are someone who is a backdoor Roth contributor, it just makes the logistics a whole lot easier if you contribute once annually in a lump sum. So I think it depends a little bit on how you're putting money in the Roth.
Well, Connie, I was going to give you the simple part of the answer. Is I always prefer automatic behavior more than manual behavior, because automatic takes away a lot of the variables that can create, distraction or not being consistent. It's part of being a human, as I think we get distracted or our attention span goes a different place. So I love dollar cost averaging because it's an automatic behavior and it creates the path towards inevitable wealth. However, even with that preference, complexities change the equation. And Bo just laid it out. If you're a person, your income's quickly approaching the Roth income limits, you don't want to fund it dollar cost average because it is so hard to unwind these things, or it adds a level of complexity. Don't do it. I'd rather you build the money up and then make the contribution all at once after you get your tax projection, or you're getting your taxes prepared before April and you can fund it. That's a complexity that would come into that. Or maybe you're at the point where, there's just something that's going on that's going to create, you've got a big purchase or something that's making it where, or your income doesn't come in monthly. It comes in quarterly because you're commissioned or on bonus sales incentives. Those type of things will change the automatic behavior, but I do prefer set it, forget it, always be buying, because it just takes out all the human elements and creates the automatic millionaire.
I love it. And good for you guys for maxing out Roths. We love Roths.
Absolutely.
Awesome. 36, 37, they are going to be their future self will be thankful they maxed those out.
Tax-free millionaires.
Love it.
Connie, thanks for your question. If you would like a Money Guy tumbler, you can just email Matt, M-A-T-T, @moneyguy.com, and we'll work on getting that sent out to you. Jeremy's question is up next. He says, is there an income requirement to be able to do a mega backdoor Roth conversion? I know you must first max out 401k contributions, but I've seen mixed info that you must not be eligible to make normal Roth contributions. Can you help kind of iron this out for him?
Yeah. We can make it
good.
We can make
I
it
figured
incredibly
you
clear
could.
for you. There is not an income requirement to be able to do mega backdoor Roth. For those of you that aren't familiar, when you have a 401k, there are generally two ways that you can put money into a 401k. You can do pre-tax contributions or you can do Roth contributions. Pre-tax, you get a tax deduction now. Roth, you don't pay tax when you pull it out later. However, there's a third type of contribution that some 401ks allow called an after-tax contribution. And what's great about this one is you put money in, you don't get a tax deduction, but then the money grows tax deferred, and when you pull it out, you pay tax on the earnings, not tax on the money that you put into it. So it's a third way to contribute. And the other great thing about it is where your pre-tax and Roth are capped at the $23,000 salary deferral, your after-tax contributions are not capped there. They can go all the way up to the Section 415 limits, which I think this year are $69,000.
There you go.
So your question is there an income component to be able to do this? No, but.
Yeah, there's definitely, let me tell you, to do the mega backdoor Roth, to truly get all that money, just saying saving $69,000 a year, even if it has a portion that's your employer, you got to have a big income. I mean, it's just part of the equation. I was going to share just what we have seen in our experience is typically the people who are actually doing the mega backdoor Roth are employed and they have big W-2s. And let me tell you the difference why you don't see it as often. You can. I'm not telling you can't do it, but it's just that if you're self-employed or you are the managing person of your company, you're less likely to do it because you might use there might be other planning opportunities or levers that you pull, like a cash balance plan,
pre-tax contributions.
There's going to be things you're going to pull the lever on. But if you're an employee, but maybe an executive, you don't have complete control of everything, but you do know, and we see this, like we saw some auto executives that we go and speak to, that when I saw their 401k plan, I was like, man, somebody who designed this was very well versed and understood the opportunities of a mega backdoor Roth. And a lot of those executives were taking advantage of that opportunity because you just have to make sure that the word of caution, if you are a high income person, a high W-2 person, and you find out that your employer does offer after-tax contributions, and they also offer either in-plan conversions or in-service distributions, whatever, those two things, because you have to have some way to actually turn it into a Roth. If you find out those things are there, you can take advantage of it. Just make sure you don't squeeze out the employer's contribution. That's the only other word of caution we always give, is because the government and your employer will let you gladly fully fund that 415 limit. But if you get to the end of the year and the employer, because a lot of times those profit sharing contributions don't happen until the next year. Usually companies will have all the way up until October of the following year to fund, if they filed an extension, to fund those profit sharing contributions. You don't want to fund your after tax and then your employer had a great year last year and they decide to really load up the profit sharing and they say, so sorry, because you took advantage of this, you left $5,000 on the table. You'd be pretty ticked because that's $5,000 you could have used for your household and your family to end up at the same place.
Awesome. Jeremy, thank you for your question. Hope that helps. We'd love to send you a Money Guy tumbler as a thank you for being here today. Just email Matt, M-A-T-T, @moneyguy.com, and we'll work on sending that out to you. Okay. Next question is from GT Probably.
Does that mean they're considered going to Georgia Tech?
I don't know.
I was thinking the same thing.
I know. That's because we're from Georgia.
I'm not going to say
But
it.
Brian will
But he
say
said
it.
GT Probably.
GT Probably.
Yep.
So think about, There's always a great school down the road
I'm about to say there's a few
in
little
Athens, Georgia,
yeah,
University of Georgia.
finest in all
Go
the land.
Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Okay.
That's probably not. GT might be for grand
a Mustang.
touring, or he's a car person. You never know. But being a Georgia boy, I immediately went to
You thought
Georgia Tech,
Georgia.
where the nerds are.
Well, GT probably
Oh, I have a lot of
asks.
Georgia Tech friends.
Yep.
And as an accounting major from Georgia, we're probably the closest to the nerds as a Georgia Tech engineer. Okay, I'm sorry. The rest you can carry on.
That part was for free.
Okay. GT probably asks, I'm turning 40 soon and I just discovered the foo. What debt interest percentage is considered high interest debt? And I know we have some thoughts on like what age you are. And so
Yeah.
can you kind of iron that out for him since he's new to the financial order of operations?
Yeah, we get this question a lot. What's interesting is there are some types of debt that are objectively high interest. The one that most immediately comes to mind is like credit cards. If you are carrying a credit card balance and you 10 years ago were paying 12% interest, but now you're paying what, 23, 24%? We've seen some as high as 30% interest rates on your credit card. I don't care how old you are, where you're from, what you got going on. That is high interest debt. That is a no-go land. It does not make sense. But there are other types of debt that you may have where at different stages and in different phases of life, it might be categorized as high interest or not categorized as high interest. Some of the common ones we talk about, Brian, are like student loans. There are times when student loans may be high interest or low interest. And even we've talked a little bit about mortgages. There are times when it makes sense to prioritize prepaying mortgages and times when maybe it doesn't make sense to prioritize.
Yeah, but
prepaying.
I do want to be clear. I think this is a great question that GTA offers, and now I'm more inclined to think that they probably are a Georgia Tech type person. Just because this is a nerdy question, but it's a good question.
They're 40, so they might not be thinking about going to Georgia Tech.
I was just trying to give a compliment to the Georgia Tech to bring it back because I called them nerds. When we've really thought of this, there's two components that went into it, and it is unique because interest rates right now on your cash, you can get 4 and 5% pretty easily. And why that's important is because what you make on your cash is considered the risk-free return. This is if you can just go buy something and get 3, 4, 5% without taking on any risk, that's pretty incredible. Well, that's why to obviously take on more risk or to go invest the money and not be guaranteed you'll get the money back, there's what's called a risk premium. And I've always tried to pay attention to, well, that should be a spread. You basically take the risk-free rate of return, you add the risk premium, which historically has been around 4%, depending on which time period you look at it. So it was easy to say, and I'm going to give you these numbers, but know that it's been changed a little bit, and then also give you a caveat on this. That's why when we talked about student loans, we've always said if you're in your 20s, it's okay if you still are funding your Roth IRA as long as you're not paying more than a little over 6% on your student loans. If you were in your 30s, that number dropped down to 5%. In your 40s, it was 4% because there was also the balance of risk premium, but there's also a desire to get you out of this debt fast as possible. So that all seemed great while interest rates were less than 1%. It was so easy to give that guidance, but now that we're at this new interest rate, and it's a temporary thing because there's already pressure for the Federal Reserve to start lowering rates at some point this year. So I think we'll go back to a lower number that makes this all work much easier. But I do want to put the caveat that I think that mortgages, even though they can be 6.5%, even though as high as 7% currently, I'm hesitant to immediately say because it's over 6% that is high interest debt. I think that it's a moment in time that will be refinanced or other changes will happen that I don't know that I'm willing to throw out all of my rules, all of the guidance for this moment in time and have people not funding their Roth IRAs or building their emergency reserves because they, mortgage rates are at 7%. I'd rather you be more of a balanced approach, a more averaged out over the time frame, and know that it's still probably a step 9 because you're going to have that opportunity to refinance or make changes in the future.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Even as you think about debt, because he put some additional context, he's considering debt between like 4% and 6.5%. Didn't say what kind of debt. I would argue that how you approach that and how you think about that is a little bit dependent on where you are in your financial journey, right? If you're 40 and you are still early on and you're still in steps, 1 through 7, you're still building, then that's going to cause you to arrive at a different conclusion that maybe building dollars and getting money to work for me and continue to establish my foundation is the most important objective right now. But if you are farther along in your journey and you have built up a substantial base and you are in one of those advanced steps, you're in step 7, 8, 9, well, then you get to choose. You get to actually make the decision around, okay, do I want to utilize my dollars to satisfy debt or to knock out that 4 to 6.5%? So you'll have to define the type of debt that you have, the interest rate that's on that debt, and where you are in your journey to determine the most appropriate way to attack that.
What you just described, and it's great because GT is turning 40, and that's a very big, kind of a transition point, is you got to know where you are. Are you ahead of the curve, behind the curve, or right where you need to be? Go check out our Know Your Number course.
Great.
And then you got to financially do triage to know, because that's the part. If you're a person who's never invested and you're 40 and you're making a decision, do you pay down debt or invest? That's where you do run into a problem. Is it's easy to say pay down the debt if you have a lot of money behind you, but if you have never invested and you've never done a Roth, your financial triage is probably going to say, man, we need to get some money in a Roth IRA. Right. So that's why it's very personalized. They put the personal in personal finance and kind of take your financial triage between a net worth statement and Know Your Number course to kind of figure out where you fall in that and what the next step is for your army of dollar bills.
Love it. Go Dogs.
Love it.
Well done.
Well, GT, probably, if you would like a Money Guy tumbler, we would love to send you one. Just email Matt, M-A-T-T, @moneyguy.com, and we'll work on getting that sent out to you since we asked your question today. Guys,
they didn't give us any guidance if that was Georgia Tech or if it was Grand Tour.
It wasn't
he
Georgia
didn't.
Tech.
Okay, so GT, we're sorry. Well, it's just, you got to take the good with the bad.
That mind is an amazing thing up there, though.
It is.
Yeah, it's like playing Chutes and Ladders. As a kid, it's just all kind of stuff going on.
Love it. Well, we seriously do love hanging out with you. Serious questions and tangents, all of it, every Tuesday, 10 a.m. We'll be back Tuesday at 10 a.m. But in the meantime, make sure you hit up moneyguy.com. All of our shows and Q&A shows are up there for you to search through if you need to refresh or get caught up on certain topics that we've touched on today, along with all of our free resources, all of our calculators, and all of our courses and tools. So, we made that for you so that even if it's not Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central, you have the Money Guy Show on call and can kind of research and hopefully kickstart your financial journey and motivate you so you can get that in order so you can focus on what really matters. That's what it's all about. So thanks so much for being here. We love doing these Q&As.
Guys, we love creating this content. I am echoing Reby in that. But also, I think I love it. We have never done a question and answer where we didn't start whipping out and shaking the financial order of operations. So make sure you are respecting the foo. Money Guy team out. Need to work on that pointing. That pointing was all over the place.
You, foo,
I know.
Money Guy.